Welcome to Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose podcast. Our podcast showcases inspiring appraisers and professionals from the industry who are leaders in their field. How did they get to where they are? What have they learned along the way? What can we learn from them? Your host is real estate investor, entrepreneur, and appraiser, Michael Hobbs.
Welcome to another exciting, informative, and engaging episode of Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose podcast. I'm excited to have quite a unique and storied peer joining us today. Before we jump right into it, thank you for what you do and only you can do, and that is not only subscribe, but like the podcast, because as you do that, you tell those big networks that this is something that you enjoy or you benefit from, or better yet, it just makes a little place of levity in your day, however that may be. Thanks for doing what only you can do. I'm your host, Michael Hobbs, and I'm excited to have Brent with us today. Brent, thanks for joining us.
No problem. Glad to be here.
I appreciate it. Brent, people want to know, were you born this way, or how did you get into the appraisal and valuation profession?
I was fortunate enough that my family were appraisers. So
no
my
way.
dad was an SRA.
The whole family? Wow.
My whole family. Yeah, my dad was an SRA, and then he was doing VA work. And then my mom was a realtor and also an appraiser. Wow. So I kind of got dragged in holding the measuring tape when I was in my teenage years, going to do appraisals in the mountains, unwillingly, let's say.
Oh, man.
And then I was, right when licensing came about in 91, 92, I immediately got my license right out of high school. So I was the youngest licensed appraiser in the state.
Youngest appraiser in the state. Wow, yeah. That is amazing.
Yeah, it was kind of fun. But back then, though, it was a little different. You just kind of filled out a form.
Yes.
And you said you're an appraiser and you got your license. So when a little different now, but it was still an accomplishment.
Very much so. And to be in a family environment where mom's selling homes, dad's got a designation, he also works on the VA. I mean, you really got to be exposed to a whole range of opportunities at the younger point in life.
Yeah. I mean, looking back on it, I didn't take it for granted. And then I got older, I really, really take it for granted because this profession is so hard to get into that
yes.
It's amazing after you start meeting people, how many you find out did get in business from their family. Because if not, they wouldn't have got in. I would have never gotten this business without my parents.
No, that completely makes sense. How did you escape holding the end of the tape until a teenager? I mean, I would have thought they had you out there at like 6 years old or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, earliest I remember doing it was probably about 15 years old, going out with them and holding the tape and driving the car while they take photos. And back in the old days, we had to get the photos developed. So we had to go, you had to drop them off at the photo mat and then we had to drive down to the courthouse. We had to pull what's called property cards.
Yes.
And you'd have to pull the little index card out, and then you'd have to talk to the court recorder. It was a lot different back then. It was a lot more work and time for what you did.
It definitely, there's a lot more of the dotting I's and crossing T's of the process of just getting to an appraisal report back then than there exists today.
Yeah, making your maps, and you'd have these little scratchy things. You put little subject and use a little map book. And you'd have to have a photocopier and copy the map book, and you'd have to hand draw your sketch on the graph paper and use a little architect ruler and draw it. It was a lot more technical. I'd say that.
Wow. So what was one of your earliest memories of being out with mom and dad on some type of appraisal activity?
Well, we did VA foreclosures there back in the late 80s. So we had like dogs released on us because my dad felt fine to walk up driveways and get photos, and knocking on doors when there's no one's supposed to be there, and we hear a gun cock and they just say some words that I shouldn't say to get out of there.
They invite you to leave the property they're inhabiting, that they are doing so illegally, and you're there with purpose.
Yes. I mean, we had one where I was measuring and there's a bear in the backyard, and I really didn't know what to do. So, cause it was in the mountains. So we didn't have that much a lot of dog issues. They love to release the dogs on us. So it's quite common. We had to see my dad running down the driveway with this big old camera with dogs running after him. We got surrounded by police a couple times where they called the cops on us, and we're at the local diner, and suddenly they all surround us, and they lied and said we're robbing them, and at least 2 or 3 times we had the cops surround us.
Oh my gosh, that sounds sadly familiar. It's always amazing the extent people will go to not be accountable.
Right.
Wow. So here you become a teenager, and what prompted you to go into the profession as opposed to anything else you could have done?
Well, I went to college, and it was interesting in college that I was the only licensed appraiser and realtor at the whole university, including my professors. So I was going to these classes and found out that a lot of these professors didn't really know much other than book smart.
Goodness.
And I started to kind of appreciating, I kind of knew a little bit. I believe me, I wasn't that smart. I'm just a dumb teenager coming out of high school.
Oh, I get that.
But then, then I came out and I noticed that it was a good job. I couldn't find another job. And I was like, well, I got these licenses and I made a lot of money.
That's fantastic.
I paid off my student loans in 1 year.
What?
Yeah. I mean, it was easy back then to make money doing appraisals. It was, you got on the panels, and it was good money. Good money. I mean, you're getting $325 an appraisal back in the 90s. Oh, that's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money. What you mentioned, I think you said 91, 92, you were the youngest one in the state to get your license. Why did you get your license? I mean, if you're a teenager and you got your mom and dad there, and you're just part of the family labor pool, did they tell you had to, or what prompted you to do that?
Oh, they made me do it, of course.
Oh, okay. I'm like, whoa, talk about this foresight of a teenager.
No, I was a dumb teenager. I would have never thought about doing that. And then they told me to get the automatic upgrade to certified. So there was only licensed and general back then. Oh, wow. Then they added certified, and all you had to do is send a piece of paper, and then you automatically get upgraded to certified back then. Oh, then they pressured me to get my broker's license in 95 because they told me just do it because they were changing the rules. They're making it more difficult, and they made it more hours. So luckily they pressured me to get that. So I got out of college with my broker's license and my certified appraiser license.
Holy smokes. That is absolutely amazing. And did you go to one of the big schools or one of the local schools out there?
It was a state school. It's called CSU. So it was a bigger school.
I know CSU. My buddy went there and got his master's in information systems here a couple years back.
Yeah, it was funny because I actually appraised the teacher who taught appraisal. I appraised her condo.
Come on, you kidding me?
Yeah.
You're like, I don't think that course you're teaching is very good there, Miss Instructor.
It was painful going to class, and everything was two years behind. So when they're talking about stuff like USPAP and the state, and it's just weird taking a class when you know too much. And I felt very uncomfortable.
Yeah, that is challenging to say the least. Wow. So how long were you part of the family labor pool?
So until I worked a little bit with them through college, like summers, and then worked a little bit when I got out of school. And then I ended up working for a smaller firm, going up on my own. And that's when I started really making money because they didn't pay me. They paid me in like room, board, and
I mean, dude, you have a bed to sleep on, and there's like air conditioning, and how you even have to eat in the winter. Like, what more do you? And there's food. I mean, come on, what more do you want?
I mean, they might have paid me $25-$50 an appraisal, if that. So it was time for me to go up on my own and work. So I was just, when I started doing appraisals, I was making, like $325 an appraisal and doing sometimes 2 a day, maybe even 3 a day.
Ooh, that's a lot of money back then.
And I'm right out of college, no bills. And I'm like, I am rich. I am rich.
Oh my gosh. You were. I mean,
I was.
And back then, whether you worked a couple of days a week or all the days a week, I mean, you were just flowing in cash.
Oh, I mean, making $600-$700 a day out of college with no bills. Oh, I mean, that's like I said, my student loan. I paid off $20,000 in student loans in 1 year.
Oh my gosh, that is absolutely beautiful. I absolutely love that. And then, if you were generating that type of income and you had your broker's license, did you start investing back then?
Yeah. So I've rented a home with some buddies, and then I bought my first house, fixer upper, and then I started buying some fix and flips. But I found out on the fix and flips, I was making so much money doing appraising that I worked on my hourly rate on my flips that I made more money doing appraising than
Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
my gosh.
That I worked out the amount of effort and time on a flip I made that I worked out was like if I did appraisals. So I quit doing them, because it was pointless. And the time and effort and money and risk. And the laborers were charging me $50-$60 an hour to lay tile. And this is back during the back in 2001 range where everything was so hot that I'm paying guys $50-$60 to do texturing drywall. I'm like, so all my profits were going to these laborers.
Yep. I get it. That's something else. That's and you look at that and say, and I can knock out 2 real estate appraisals a day.
Yeah.
What an amazing experience. Good for you. So did you ever go back into the real estate investing, or was that kind of one and done?
So I ended up getting my employing broker's license, and I did. I really wasn't a very good buyer's agent because I unfortunately am too honest. So I started having some people work for me. And then luckily down the road, my broker's license helped me a lot in my appraisal profession because I started doing some more lawsuits and litigation. And it really helped knowing contracts and knowing the whole process of how realtors work, and then being able to question these realtors, and then ended up getting more further down the road, like now where I'm actually, doing E&O, working with E&O companies and analyzing whole cases that have real estate issues. Instead of just doing appraisal, I'm now looking at the whole real estate process from the time the home's listed till the time sold, everything that happened during that whole time frame.
Oh, fascinating. So to kind of put it in perspective, so you become the youngest appraiser in the state. Your parents, with great wisdom, said, do it because I said so. And then they did the same thing, said, look, things are changing. You don't really understand. Get your broker's license. Yep. So you've had these licenses for decades upon decades. Yes. And then it sounds like by the time of Y2K, were you already operating on your own at that point?
Correct. Yeah. Around, actually late 90s, I was pretty much working on my own at that point. And then I started finding out that maybe when subprime happened and all the work, I kind of found I needed to maybe work on my reports. So I started working with Appraisal Institute for many years, going to classes. I took classes back when I was a teenager, Appraisal Institute, but that was just my dad forced me to.
Yep.
And I started learning a lot, and I noticed there was this organization and peer group, and I found out I really wasn't maybe the best appraiser. I found out that maybe
you've got to be kidding me.
I found out maybe I wasn't as good as my head thought I was, and I didn't really know the market. And even though I did a good report, and it was very eye-opening, the biggest eye-opening experience was taking appraisal report writing 1 and 2 through AI.
Totally agree.
And that really changed my whole outlook on appraising. Of what I don't do, what I'm doing wrong, what I can do, and how to build a report to stand up to someone beating the crap out of it.
Yeah, it's the image that comes to mind. I was in the gym this morning and saw a guy in there working out in the other room on the bags. It's kind of like that punching bag. It's like, how strong is your punching bag, aka your appraisal report, depending on who it's going to go to. You can appreciate your experience there.
Yeah, so that kind of changed everything. So that was back in maybe 05, 06 range. And that's when I started turning toward really maybe working harder on a report and not worrying about getting a report out as much. Like, I don't care what it's due. I my fee is X, but I'm going to do Y. And that's why I started maybe taking a little more care and trying to understand and develop these more complex reports.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. That's something else. And so before you start taking courses at the Appraisal Institute, like you said, in 2005, 2006, what type of work were you doing back when you went out on your own?
Oh, it was just the typical AMC. Back then, it wasn't really AMC work. It was more just lender work where I was actually in office with a mortgage broker. So it was they just handy deals. People don't understand how Wild West it was back in pre-subprime. I mean, I can't even tell how much bad things went on in that business, from brokers to lenders to appraisers to you name it. I mean, It was just the Wild West is all I can say. And there was so much work we had in Denver at that time, we had 36,000 listings on the market back then. So there was so much volume just from purchase, and people were refining. I saw people refine every 6 months or a year, getting cash out of their properties. There was just so much work for appraisers that, I remember having stacks on my desk. It was so much work and so much money that it was shocking. I look back on what was going on, and anyone who wasn't part of subprime has no idea like what it was.
Yes, that's all I can say. I remember walking in, I'd come in when the gentleman, I was already investing at that point, but I remember I'd walk into his office and he would judge if it was going to be a good day or not based on the number of pages on the floor that came off the fax machine the night from the day before and that night, the previous evening. And he'd kind of just pick them up, put them in a stack, and he'd go through and he'd cherry pick the ones typically by address that he wanted. And then all the things that were easily a long drive away or a part of the greater metropolitan area he didn't want to go to, those ended up on my desk. So.
Oh, I mean, this is one of the funny stories I had. So I remember back then we did what's called comp searches.
Oh, and yeah. That was quite common with his client.
They'd fax over something and say, I need 250. They give the address and say, need 255. Well, even back then I knew, hey, I'm not doing an appraisal. I'm not whatever. So I would look at the data and say, highest home in the neighborhood sold for, let's say, 300 or whatever. Sure. And like, well, I need 325. Well, I kept these comp sheets over the years. And I went back one day, about a year or two later, and I was drinking scotch, cleaning up my office, and I had these stack, and I went, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do a quick deed search on all these comp searches. Oh, wow. And see what happened with all these.
Sure.
And they were all, I wrote down, highest sale 300, need 350, highest sale, 250, need 275. How many homes do you think of those were refinanced percentage-wise?
Oh my gosh. Back then, most of them.
100%.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was. They'd be like, dude, it's got to be 255. You're like, dude, it's not a dime over 250. Like, you do whatever you need to do. It needs to be 250. I'm like, dude, I ain't signing this one. You're like, here, dude, it's your business. You do it.
They found an appraiser to get that value on every one of those. That's how bad it was. Like not 10% were done. Every one had that value met or more, and they all. I went back and looked at loan to values. And the loan to values were exactly the ratio to get that number that they asked for.
Oh my gosh.
So that's when I say how bad subprime was, that it was bad. There was a lot of bad things going on.
There were a lot of people conspired to produce results. I remember that was the hardest thing when I went out. I worked with him for a while. I appreciated it. I learned a lot. I taught him a ton because he didn't know how to grow a business and how to develop clientele and how to build structure and team and stuff. But it was actually hard going out on my own because I didn't have any relationships. And the people that you met, I'm like, I don't like you. I don't want to work with you. I didn't grow very fast for a while. So I can totally appreciate what your experience there, Brent.
Yeah. I mean, the networks too were pretty easy to build back then because everyone knew everyone. And especially when you're in-house with a lender. I mean, I had my first highest fee appraisal was this guy calls me up and goes, hey, I need this rush deal done in the mountains. And I need it done in like 2 days. And I'm making $25,000 on this deal. And he goes, what? I said, it's going to be $2,000 appraisal fee because it was during a blizzard. He goes, I don't care. Go do it. $2,000 back in like 2003.
No way.
Which is so much money for a home, a simple home way in the mountains, like way in the middle of nowhere. But that was my first big appraisal fee was because the guy was making 25 large on like a $250,000 home.
Oh, that's disgusting. He was making 10%?
Yes.
Totally taking advantage of people.
Oh, prepay. What I did, 799 they called it back then, with points, prepay penalties and everything else. And I didn't know at the time till I got done, and I didn't care. Like, I was just doing the appraisal, but
just doing appraisal.
So that's where I laugh telling people that stuff, because these younger people get in the business have no idea how it was back 20, 30 years ago.
Yes. Sadly, I agree with you there. Holy cow. So how was it that I heard you mention AMCs? So back after Y2K, through the late 90s and up until we got to like 2005, when you started to recognize maybe the orbit you thought you were in terms of quality and credibility wasn't that. Was it primarily just as that transition came in the late 90s towards AMCs? You just move over to the AMCs and kept working?
Yeah, AMCs really came in effect after subprime. So the Dodd-Frank and all that. So that was the only work there was. So when the Dodd-Frank came in, or I think Dodd-Frank or Frank Dodd, they forced AMCs to come into effect. But luckily, again, I was very involved with a lot of people. So I got on a lot of good panels, like big banks and stuff. So I was able to work for just really good clients and private wealth. So I wasn't doing the smaller AMCs, more. Everyone had AMCs. I remember Bank of America, U.S. Bank, all the big banks had these AMCs. So there was still plenty of work, but then it all moved to this AMC platform, which was fine if you could get, on the right panels. But there was, and then, that slowly started transitioning. I started getting kind of burnt out on that. And I noticed there was some other work available, which was getting more toward the, the stuff that's more complex, and then the more direct lending type work that finally got me out of that AMC. It was just painful. I mean, the fees and what they wanted, it was hard to, it was hard. I forget when it was, but there was a point in time where I remember I had a day off, and I hadn't a day off in like years. And at one point I looked at my desk and there's nothing on my desk. And that's when I knew it was time to try to figure out what to do that's not AMC work.
Ooh, that's tough. That is tough. How did you even become aware that there was other work out there, given that so much of what you were doing just kept rolling on itself?
I started, getting some, again, through the seminars and with Appraisal Institute and meeting realtors, and suddenly you get a call like, hey, I got a buddy needs a divorce. Okay, I'll do that. Or I need an estate. That's, I think, the easiest way to get into non-lender work is that type of work where you get the kind of not formal type engagement where, my Aunt Jimmy died and like, I need an estate. I need an appraisal done when he died. Oh, that's easy, There's some IRS rules, but they're pretty easy to, go through. And then the divorce. Oh, I got a simple home. Let's do a divorce. Oh, here it is. Those are very common. And then it starts getting out there where suddenly you get the call and it's like, well, hey, I got a call about something due to the light rail, and the home's behind the light rail, and they're talking about diminution of value. And I was like, oh, I can help with that. I appraised the home 2 doors down from it. So I knew all about this home. And so, and then it just kind of came about that I started getting more involved doing these complex reports and, explaining how to do some of these market studies and creating a good report, that it kind of just spiraled. And I started I got on a couple large cases, and I helped my client win whatever they were, not help win. I did my report that helped support a value that the other side was, let's say, in the legal world, they have a expert that gets what they want.
Oh, I've heard of those people.
And they can fly them in from other states. And I started going against large appraisal firms in town and other appraisers that were flown in, or even, let's say, a professor at a university. So I was going against some of these academics and finding out that, hey, I can hold my own against these guys and gals. And word spreads. And it finally came about that now 90% of my work is all litigation, most of it's builder defect or very complex properties that are cases that go everything from, easements to realtors to other appraisers to ILCs. It goes on and on. Historic homes.
Yes.
Anything that could go wrong, I've seen, unfortunately, or been in the middle of.
Yeah. And so it's one thing to have a conversation now about that, which is very interesting. But a lot of people haven't had the exposure and therefore they don't have the experience to even be where you're at today. Aside from the small things, as you said, and that happens. Maybe someone you've worked with before is like, hey, I still have your appraisal and mom passed away. My accountant's saying we now need an appraisal from like 9 months or a year ago. Can you do that? And you're like, oh yeah, retrospective. I can do that for you. Or like you said, somebody reaches out to you and, oh yeah, I know you were just here like 6 months ago, but marriage is over and I need an appraiser and your name's on the report. Like those things at least get you started, but that doesn't get you that next level of experience, which is, being designated as an expert or having to go to depositions. How did that start to build for you? Because a lot of people don't even know, one, that it exists. And if they do, they don't have any sense of how they might start building some, what we call it, at-bats in baseball.
80% of all businesses fail within 5 years, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. With so many roles and responsibilities that must be managed and have nothing to do with appraisal reports, is it any surprise that it's hard to keep up, much less having a sense of peace, stability, and profitability that comes from growing your business? Given all of this, you might already be thinking about exiting your business one day. Don't miss the limited opportunity to work with Michael, a real estate expert and professional coach. He has worked with more than 300 owners and entrepreneurs to find their highest and best use by solving problems that reach their most important goals. Compress decades of learning into days by working with Michael. Michael is famous in real estate and business coaching. With his help, you can accelerate your growth, increase your quality of life, and earn more money, all while ultimately doing less. Michael helps you not just grow your business, but also find new purpose in it and in your life. If you're ready to take control instead of being controlled, contact him on LinkedIn or email him at michaelh@paru.com.
Sure. Well, luckily, I started working with some other commercial appraisers. And that was a great way to get in the mix is a lot of these MAIs were getting these assignments. And I remember I did a couple back even in subprime where the projects were collapsing because of the rental ratio and HOA dues, and it's kind of happening now again. It's going through this. It's going through the same cycle, and it was great. Again, it was because I was working with this organization, AI, and some of these other appraisers I knew and met that I was doing this residential work. So getting in, I started getting my feet wet. Luckily, by working with some MAIs, helping them on their commercial aspect of the report, and then another larger, well-known litigator. MAI contacted me and I helped him on some pretty well-known big cases. And then he started referring me work that was pure residential based. So I was getting an MAI referring me a lot of cases because he was so busy. So a lot of my kind of got my feet wet was, like I said before, referrals from other appraisers. And then that kind of spun around that I started getting some calls on some complex properties that other appraisers didn't want to do. And then, the depositions and all that was just getting thrown to the fire. I mean, no one took me in to train me, unfortunately, to go to a trial. I luckily did help out some of these MAIs for some of their depositions, but like for their, preparing for the residential side. But I actually helped an appraiser recently, and an SRA contacted me, and he had a property in Evergreen, and he got called on this case. And he's like, hey, I don't really know what to do. I go, why don't you work with me on it? He goes, really? I go, why don't we work on it together? And I'll obviously be the lead appraiser going to court. And I'll have you do the inspection, type up the whole report pretty much. I'll QC it, make sure it all goes through. And it got settled, but I really wanted to go to court so he could go to court.
Yeah.
But it got settled, and they were all happy. It was a kind of a complex deal, but not really. For him, it was a big deal. But so And I brought another appraiser in. I had a bankruptcy, and I brought an appraiser to go sit in the gallery because there was bankruptcies you can sit in. So he got to sit in and see the whole dynamic of the jury trial. I mean, it wasn't a jury trial. It was with the God Almighty federal judge. I mean, it's another world when you see how that works, and scary. So I've tried to bring in some people that I unfortunately didn't have that experience, and I'm always offering to try to get some people to work if they want to. But it's amazing, a lot of people don't want to get into it. I'll offer and say, do you want to go to court? And they go, no, I really don't want to go down that road. So it goes both ways. There's just some people that are just afraid to have them destroy their report in court.
Wow. It's a scary experience. Nobody liked being picked on in grade school or high school, or I don't know, maybe college or something. Who wants to be a punching bag for a court case? And there's no training ground for it. It's not like there's a school you can go to. I don't know, there's some, but for the most part, there's no, from the appraisal standpoint, place where you can really go and develop that, much like you'd hire a trainer in the gym to just be consistently over time, learning a good foundation, developing core capability, core strength, and then being able to build on that.
Exactly. I mean, they offer classes like Appraisal Institute has a program to get litigation.
The litigation series, which I know one or two people that teach it. I'm a fan, and it's great to get started, but that's not going to get you the at-bat experience that you need.
It is. I mean, Roach is a great instructor.
He's amazing.
But when you first get on that stand and they start asking questions about, why didn't you use any some of the questions I've got are just so absurd that you have to be prepared. And luckily, one time I was asked about this big lawsuit that happens in Southern Colorado, why it didn't apply to my case. Thank God I knew about it, but they're pulling out case law on me. And luckily I was prepared for it. But, there's so many things that you would never think is going to happen. I mean, having to know zoning and case law, and then USPAP gets brought up a little bit, and then you're dealing with a lot of site issues, and then building issues, and I mean the amount of knowledge you have to have. You go in just knowing appraisal, you're going to get beat up.
Yeah, it's true. That is that's just. I mean, when you think about it, this is it's like any sports game you've seen. Ties are not acceptable. Somebody is going to win. And in the field of law, they're there to advocate for their client. And they're going to do whatever it takes, generally within the boundaries and sometimes outside of it, to try and make sure that they're the winners.
And I don't think people know that sometimes there's people, me especially, I'm hired sometimes, and my job is to get that witness strike as a witness.
Yes.
So my goal, especially on realtors, is I'm not your friend. I'm there to discredit whatever report you did. Yep. And my attorney's happy. If I can get the other expert thrown off, guess how many opinions there are? Mine. And we win. So it gets pretty brutal when I'm hired to go against this other report that is not even legal. What realtors do sometimes, because realtors like to talk about market value, and how that goes. So, it can get very personal. One part I don't like about this is when you do go against a peer, and it gets ugly when you go against a peer in court. And I'm careful on that now in the future, that I don't want that to happen, because it ruins the relationship forever.
Totally agree with you. I remember one in particular. I literally felt like I'd been put through a meat grinder, chewed up and spit out. I stepped away. We took a little break. Counsel, I say, okay, hey, well, let's just we'll take a little bio break. Had the men's room. Coming out of the men's room, and the opposing attorney in the deposition, he's like, you're not doing anywhere near as bad as you think you are. I can see the look on your face. You're doing a really good job. Even though I'm really it feels like I'm batting you around like a little kid's ball. I was like, I was like, cool, man. It didn't make me feel any better, but I was like late that day because I had to go back in and do another like 2 hours of deposition. But exactly to your point, Brent. I mean, there's no way to get experience, but be in the ring.
Right. And I mean, one of the best compliments I ever got on this one case was they had 4 other appraisals done for the defense side. And all the defense decided to choose my appraisal as the appraisal for the value.
Ooh, wow.
So it was kind of, that was the first time that I was happy and confident when they chose, because it was after deposition too.
Yep.
So then the defense chose my report. And that's when I was like, whoa. And then I looked at the reports and I was like, okay, now I see why too. So that was when I first saw that everything I was doing was appreciated.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that. That's such a great story. And obviously, like so many things, you do a good job. It takes a lot of time, but referrals do happen and that grows. But aside from and not in any way to diminish it, but I heard you say that got this opportunity, worked a commercial appraiser, worked on parts of the assignment, be invited and brought along. Were there any other experiences? You've mentioned the coursework you did at AI that also contributed to you developing your capacity as a litigation appraiser.
I was luckily thrown into some cases that got my ass beat, and somehow we still did okay.
It sounds familiar. Say more.
But luckily, I was just good enough than the other appraiser that the other side. So actually, one of my first one thing about bankruptcies is the judges start knowing you. So I started doing some bankruptcies and I started doing quite well. And the attorneys start talking and they start knowing that you know the judge. So I started getting a network too of doing well in federal bankruptcy. So I started getting this weird network where I was doing more bankruptcies because actually I have a link on my LinkedIn of an oral ruling I did where the judge liked me, and he's one of the hardest judges in the nation on expert witnesses, and it was quite enjoyable that the judge really talked me up, and it sounded like I was his friend the way he was talking. And after that, it helps linking that to bankruptcy cases because I'm like, well, here's how this one went. So having some proof of concept for you doing cases helps a lot too. Kind of like when I said I had a case where they wanted three trials of plaintiffs for diminution of value before they take me on the case. So
yes.
That's another where I really think after you start going, it does start spiraling. And even in Colorado, there's even a kind of a secret attorney list, kind of like for experts. And they post, they might need someone, and I'm on the list. And
congratulations.
You can't pay any money to get on that list. You can pay $1 million, but it's internal, and the attorneys have some type of list. And I get a call, and like, yeah, you're on the list. And I was like, well, it's a good list. Okay, well, I guess let's talk.
Wow, that's amazing. Congratulations for that kind of experience. And then what would you recommend, given your different methods and exposures that you've had over the years that have gotten you to where you're at today? So much so, like you said, that people come calling on you. You're not calling on them. How does somebody get started?
I think you have to get the basis of knowledge first, and you have to get a good report. I think you can't be a good non-lender type appraiser without really putting together a very good, solid report. And that report has to be a lot of narrative in it and get away from the form is great, but the form is a blueprint. And then really understanding the aspects of amazing how many people don't do a cost approach. I mean, it's shocking me how many people I talk to. I did a seminar a little while ago, and I said, everyone raise their hand. How many people here do cost approach? And, a quarter of people raise their hands. And I said, okay, how many people here, do a site value? But maybe a few more people. I'm like, so how do you do your site adjustment? And it was kind of quiet. So if you don't get a site value, and then I said, how are you doing your highest and best use if you don't do a cost approach? So
wow,
everyone was kind of like looking at me. And I said, well, how do you not support your effective age, and your depreciation without doing a cost approach? And then where's your profit? So if you can't do your approaches to start with, another good example is like income approach. I love when people do a condo and they say, oh yeah, there's 100 units rented in the condo project, but there's not enough data to do an income approach. Really?
Ooh. So no, of course, there's a great reason not to do the cost approach on a condo, but the income approach, I mean, come on.
So I think that when you start understanding that your report might need to be a little more beefy, and you might need to actually do maybe a 3-4 page market study, and maybe actually call the realtors in detail, and maybe research each comp and understand your market, and being geographically competent, and not just being the fly-by appraiser who ends up driving across the state to do a report because I'm getting paid. Like, no, you better know this area, and you better have the knowledge and years and wisdom to do it. And a lot of it is wisdom, and it takes time to be competent. So to get to that level of doing these more complex reports, you got to have a good report. And if you're taking your template from doing your AMC report, you're getting paid $325 on, and suddenly just clicking that and saying, oh, my intended user is now Bob Jones Law Firm, and they're changing 2 words, you're not going to last long.
No.
And I've gone against those in court, and they're quite enjoyable. I've had a few where one guy showed up on the stand and he already had my kind of rebuttal ready, and he's like, I can't talk about anything. It's that's all private information. I can't release it. And the judge just kicked him off the stand. That's why he got kicked. He didn't want to talk about his report. He just said it's all private information.
Oh my gosh! Oh no, that's so bad.
I had another one a couple months ago where the appraiser didn't show up for another case because he didn't want to go through it, and he didn't show up.
He just didn't show up?
Didn't show up. Yep.
Oh my gosh, the client could just sue him right on the spot.
Well, I'm not going to go into it, but
Don't go into it.
Nope. But so I've had a couple times and I had another one where the other expert just after the rebuttal, they just told the expert that maybe it's not best. We're not going to go down the value issue and move on, but we can't have Brent Henry show up to court because we're not going to talk about value and we don't want him there. So we'll not talk about value, but Brent Henry cannot show up to court at all talk about anything. My client was very happy. He's like, well, we won that because now there's no experts and now there's no value to talk about diminution of value. Oh my gosh.
I remember there was one case in particular. They reached out to me. I'm like, why are you calling me? They're like, well, we want to make sure you're engaged. I'm like, yeah, but I'm pretty sure you already have your expert. They're like, yeah, we're pretty sure, but we may need you as a consulting expert. I'm like, do you actually need me? They're like, well, we need you not to be in the case and we'd rather compensate you to sit on the sideline. I'm like, well, there's worse things to do. I don't have any dog in the fight. So sure, but it doesn't happen as often as I'd like.
I love Brent Henry. I had that happen. I had a pretty big federal insurance fire case, and I got hired on by him. And then about 2 months later, I get a call from a guy in Texas. He goes, yeah, I'm calling about a property, and it's a fire. And I go, is this a property on, let's say, Juniper Street? He goes, yeah. He goes, I'm already working for the other side. And so I think it's always a compliment when you get tried to hire you, when both sides try to hire you. Mm-hmm. That's about as good as it gets right there.
Yeah, that's it. Oh my goodness.
That's quite enjoyable when someone has referred you. Yes. From both sides.
That's impressive. That's impressive. Well, I mean, Brent, given everything that you've seen and you've learned, you've experienced, I mean, like you said, you're basically born into the industry, and youngest one becoming a real estate appraiser and got your broker's license along the way. And you're able to use the knowledge of both of those to be a better servant, if you will, a better provider to your clients. What are you looking forward to over the next 3 to 5 years?
Winding down.
That's not uncommon, Brent. Not uncommon at all.
I'm at that point now where I'm taking on cases and I'm trying to not. Even though I'm in my 50s, mm-hmm. but I'm gonna start slowing down because a lot of these I'm going to take on more litigation cases and focus more. I can make as much money working a few cases as I can doing a bunch of like normal work. Yep. And I think my skill set is now tailored toward working on these more complex, large cases, and I enjoy it. And that's where I'm going now. Is I'm trying to maybe think about retirement. And retirement though means working less, not retire. As an appraiser doesn't.
You and I understand that.
An appraiser dies; he doesn't retire. But I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. Is I don't want to be having 8 deals lined up with due dates. I want to have a deal every 2 weeks due, and a big case, or and a couple deals mixed in there. And I want to still be involved. I still like to help people out. I still like to talk to realtors. I work with a title company, a buddy owns. I do seminars with. I want to stay involved with AI within a reason. They aren't the most involved with residential appraisers, so I like to try to maybe keep the residential folk involved in the institute.
I appreciate that.
And I still like to help SRAs. I've helped some try to pass the when they go they might not pass the test for the residential case study. Yep. So I'll come down and help them out with that. I'll go walk through with their and then I still like to help out people who get in trouble if they have some problems. So I guess I'm going to just start slowing down a bit and still be involved. I'm still working with a lot of my peers, my other SRAs that I work with in the metro area, and I'm working with one other guy doing high-end homes.
Yes.
So that's kind of where I'd like to go, is try to still stay involved and stay on my game, but not work where I'm going to be having a heart attack.
I appreciate that. One of the things you had alluded to earlier was the value of being in touch with people. If someone would like to reach out and just get some perspective from you on maybe a report that they're going to court with for the first time, and they don't want to be the perpetual punching bag, how might somebody reach out to you, Brent?
Well, they can reach me through LinkedIn. All my contacts there, and then I've even get contact. I had a lady call me a while ago about a murder case, and she wanted some diminution of value on that. And yes. I love helping people out. The data's there. I'm not hiding it. I think it's. I had another case where I was appraising the penthouse downtown Denver, and people helped me with the ratio of a penthouse to non-penthouse around the country. So what comes around goes around. Is you just gotta be open to help people out, and I really enjoy helping people when there's something that I could help out with, especially preparing or knowing certain types of cases. Especially I do a lot of builder defect, how to go down that road and help your client. I really enjoy it.
Love that. Well, Brent, thank you so much for your generosity. Thanks for sharing a little bit of your perspective and all the experiences that you've had along the way. And friends, hey, thanks for joining us for another informative, engaging, and educational episode of Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose podcast. Again, you can do what only you can do. Would you believe that less than 50% of you that listen to this actually just click the subscribe button? So if you could be so generous today and do that, show Brent a little love as well. And also click the like button, it'll make him feel good. Kind of like when the judge recognized him as well. So we'll knock those out 2 at once. Brent, we appreciate you joining us.
Thanks. I had a great time. Really appreciate it.
I as well. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose. We hope you enjoyed learning from the amazing professional paths and achievements of our beloved guests. Before we go, please subscribe on your listening channel, Spotify, LinkedIn, YouTube, and other podcast channels to hear more from appraisers and valuers regarding their life and their work. After you drop a comment below, who is one friend and peer you can generously share this episode with? If you have any suggestions or questions for future episodes, we'd love to hear from you. Just send us a message on LinkedIn and we'll be sure to get back to you. Thanks again for listening, and until we're together again for the next session of Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose, create the change that you seek.